Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be comparing the recoil of the 12 gauge to the 20 gauge. Okay, so these are both birdshot, and you would expect that the 12 gauge is naturally going to have more recoil because it's a bigger container, right? It's got more stuff in it, which basically means there's more power going downrange. So there's more power going in that direction. There's got to be more power coming back in the other direction. Now these are both birdshot, and interestingly enough, they both got the same amount of shot in it in terms of weight. So it's 7-8 ounces versus how many ounces? 7-8 ounces. So they both have 7-8 ounces of shot. Okay, so the amount of stuff going downrange is the same. The difference is the gunpowder that's in there because the 20 gauge, all right, is 2.5 grams, okay, versus the 12 gauge, which is 2.75 grams. And basically, that's just a measure. It's an old measure of the amount of gunpowder they put in there. We normally don't measure gunpowder in grams anymore. We use grains, but I believe that's the black powder equivalent. Whatever. I mean, the point is there's a little bit more gunpowder in the 12 gauge versus the 20 gauge. So what's the issue? What are we even comparing here? Right. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the 12 gauge in an AK shotgun. Okay, so I'm going to be firing this out of the Lynx 12, and the difference is that the semi-automatic shotgun has a shock absorber. Okay, a lot of that recoil action goes into cycling the bolt. And what that does is it acts as a cushion, right? Because not all of that power is going into my chest. Some of that power is being diverted to operate the bolt. Compared to the pump, all right, all the power comes straight back into my chest, okay? So that's going to be the difference. So what you guys are looking for, I'm going to be basically rapid firing this as fast as I can. Obviously with the 12 gauge, it's a semi-automatic. I can dump the rounds pretty fast downrange. You guys are going to be looking at me. I'm going to be standing over here with my feet together. All right, I'm going to be like this, right? Instead of being like this, pushing into it, I'm going to be like this, trying to shoot the gun, and that should give us a good sense of the recoil because that's going to amplify the recoil, so you guys can get a better sense of it. And then I'll tell you my opinion as far as what I felt. Okay, so let's load these guns up. All right, so I got 5 rounds in here. We're gonna put 5 rounds in this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the first major disadvantage of the pump is that it just takes longer to load. Okay, because with the semi-automatic, I have the benefit of being able to load lots of these, okay, and have these ready, and then all I have to do is basically rock that in and charge it. Now, sometimes with these AKs, it can be a little difficult to get it into position, but I only got to do that one time. Once it's in, it's in. With the pump, you got to put them in one by one, and if your fingers are like in the wrong position, you know, that can happen 5 or 6 times, right? So, like I said, I am standing with my feet together, shooting at those targets as fast as I can shoot the gun, and you guys are gonna try and judge how much I move. All right, get my feet together like this. Okay, I'm gonna try and shoot this gun as fast as I can. Oops, just kicked one out. As fast as I can. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to shoot it that fast. So I should have basically gone a little bit slower with the 12 gauge, with the Lynx 12, because I was able to go boom, 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 boom. And obviously that recoil is going to add up and start pushing me back faster, you know, because it's happening at a faster rate. In fact, let's do that again. I'm going to try and match the rate on these two guns, because now I can tell you guys, while I was shooting it, as far as what was hitting my chest, it felt about the same. Okay, so the 12 gauge and the 20 gauge are recoiling about the same, because that you know, because of that recoil spring picking up the you know, a good portion of recoil. Let me get some more ammo, because I have plenty for the 20 gauge. I gotta get another box of the 12, because I didn't think I'd have to go through this twice. And I'm gonna try and match the speed on both guns. Let me pause you guys. All right, I got another box, because I did not anticipate getting so trigger happy that I was going to be going so fast with the 12 gauge. And then what happened is, because I was shooting at different speeds, it became an uneven test. 4, 5, okay, we got that loaded. All right, so I'm going to go first with the pump, because I want to try and match that speed, okay? Because I'm going to try and match that speed. That's why I'm going to go first with the pump. Get this ready. All right, same deal. I'm standing with my feet close together, and I'm going to go as fast as I can, and then try to match it with the other gun. So let me try and match that speed now. Right, so what we saw there, I mean, first of all, let's see. Shooting it at the same speed, there was probably a tiny bit more recoil, I think, with this, probably due to that slightly higher velocity, because the speeds are all a little bit different. As far as velocity, I should have mentioned it earlier. It's the 12 gauge is 1250 versus the 20 gauge, which is 1200. So I wasn't quite able to match the speeds perfectly. The 12 gauge had a little bit more velocity. So now trying to shoot them at the same speed, there was, yeah, it felt like there was just a tiny little bit more recoil, but not a drastic difference. Like I would like, and that's part of the reason that when I train women on a shotgun, I don't go to a 20 gauge pump. I just go to a 12 gauge semi-automatic, because the recoil difference, in the past I couldn't even really tell the difference, right? But today, because of the way I did the test with my feet together, I got a better sense that, yeah, there is a tiny little bit more recoil with the 12 gauge, but it's really negligible. Now, one of the things that you notice, I did get a jam while I was shooting, right? One of the shells didn't feed. That had everything, I think, to do with my feet being together and the gun moving me back. Because in order for the semi-automatic to work, the bolt has to come all the way back in order to work. Well, what happens is, if you're not holding this firmly and the gun's rocking you, you're bleeding off energy. Because in order for this to work, the gun has to stay steady while this is moving. If the whole gun is moving a little bit, you're bleeding off energy, and that's going to cause a failure to feed. And that's one of the reasons why, you know, I generally don't recommend shotguns at all for home defense. The pumps, because they're just such a pain in the ass to load, and even worse to operate, right? Because what I find is, under stress, you know, even experienced shooters, when I put them under stress, what they do is they don't pump this hard. Where's that release back here on this one? They all got all these shotguns, they got the releases in different places where you got to unlock it. So if you don't pump this hard enough, let me get another tape. Shell. right? If you don't pump this hard enough, right, and you got an empty case, what it will do is it'll come out. Well, that didn't do it. Let's get the next one in there. What it will do is it'll come up. Well, this one's really ejecting good, but a lot of times they'll end up like this, and you're gonna do that. I'm not able to replicate it on this gun, but on under stress, when I got people shooting and I'm timing it and I'm pushing them, I'm making them run around and stuff, a lot of times they don't pump it hard enough and they cause a jam. And a lot of times, like if I tell them, take out, to change the ammunition or something, they forget if the safety's on, if they, because the buttons on this can be a little confusing, again, under stress when I'm pushing somebody. Where's the release, where are the safeties? Some shotguns have the safety back here. So sometimes I find that gets people confused. So that's why I don't recommend pumps, mainly because people under stress don't pump it hard enough and they cause jams. Even though this one over here is, I haven't shot this one in a while. I mean, it's almost impossible for me to get it to jam. Yeah, it's really throwing them out there. With the 12 gauges, they're usually, I guess, for whatever reason, my 12 gauges, they come up. If I don't pump it hard for them to go flying, they'll come up and then just land back in there. But anyway, with this one over here, as you guys saw while I was shooting, the issue with this is if you're not leaning into the gun, right? This is not going to come back all the way to cycle the gun. And that's going to cause a feeding jam. And here's the thing. Yeah, when we're shooting clay discs and we're standing like this and pushing it to the gun, yeah, great, we're not going to get jams. But in a real life and death situation, you might be moving, you might be shooting in an awkward position, you might be moving back, you might be running behind cover as you're shooting. So in those type of situations, I find that gun, I do occasionally get jams, okay, when you're shooting like that. Now, with like AR-15s, AK-47s, I mean, it can happen, but it's a really low percentage. But it can happen, and I've seen it happen for the same reasons, and that's why you got your backup gun. But the rate at which it happens, the rate at which you get a failure to eject or failure to feed on a military gun, a military rifle specifically, is very, very, very low. I mean, one time I managed to get an AR to jam by shooting it like this. Boom, 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 boom. Obviously, the gun's moving all over the place. I did get it to jam like that. I was using steel case ammunition, which is has a little bit less power, and also the steel cases, they're not quite as smooth as the brass. So I think that added a tiny bit more resistance, which is the reason why I was able to jam up the AR shooting it like this. Boom, 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 boom. So it can happen. That's why you got to lean into the gun. But with the semi-automatic shotgun, it's more likely to happen than, let's say, with an AR or with an AK. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that video. And again, the whole point of this video is, like, if I had two pumps here, a 12 gauge, a 12 gauge pump and a 20 gauge pump, you guys would see a really big difference when I was shooting the 12 gauge. It would move me a lot. And also, I mean, I know because I've shot them. I mean, there's definitely a felt difference. You'll feel that recoil in your chest. But between these two guns, there's not that much of a difference. And that's why when I train women to shoot, let's say, clay discs, I don't bother with the 20 gauge. I just pull out the semi-automatic 12 gauge, specifically that Lynx 12, which is great because of the collapsible stock. This collapsible stock allows me to shorten this up, and women can bring this closer into their body, so the gun is a little bit less front heavy. I hope at some point they do away with the SBR laws, which are ridiculous, because it would be nice to get a shorter version of this to give to women, which will be even less front heavy. And at the distances that we typically shoot clay discs, that I think that would work fine, because the clay discs usually they don't go out more than like with the foot operated thrower. I mean, maybe they'll get out to 150 feet, and then by then they're usually in the ground. So I only need a pattern about that wide out to 150 feet for clay discs, and a short barrel Lynx 12 would be ideal for women. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Drop some comments below. Let me know what you guys think. If you've done this type of experiment before, let me know what your feelings are on it. I'll talk to you soon, guys. Make sure that you're subscribed to my uncensored platforms on Odyssey. I'm Pocono Tactical. On Rumble, I'm Pocono Guns. And then my backup channels on YouTube are Pocono Shooting, Absolute Gun Rights, and Safa, which is the original channel that goes back to 2006. Talk to you all soon.